Hey there, my friends, it's Dave Wood. I'm talking to you in front of my swimming pool. And today I just wanted to have a relaxed chat with you and talk to you about why we're here. Why are we here? And why are you watching this video? And why are you doing what you're doing right now? You know, I got started back in home business back in 2002. But really I started when I was like a kid. See, what happened was I was failing all my classes in school. And like literally F's. Like I was in 8th grade. I had F. And one day I was driving, I had a conversation with my dad, and he was basically like, son, what are you doing, right? And the truth is I was just skipping school, which isn't smart, right? And so I was skipping school, and my dad was like, why are you skipping school? And he just caring at me, being a loving father, you know. He was a direct, hilarious, loving father. Love my dad. And, you know, he said, you know, what are you doing? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you got to support a family somehow. And I was like, well, if supporting a family means that I'm going to do what you do for a living, I don't want to do it, right? I didn't like my dad was a judge. He had a great job, had a career, right? Worked full-time in a ministry as well. And he just worked really hard. I'm driving with my dad, and, you know, I'm like failing all my classes. And then he was like, son, you're going to fail in life if you do this, right? You're not going to succeed. And I was like, well, I don't want to do what you do, so I guess I'm going to be poor, right? Probably not the best thing to say, but that's what I said when I was a kid. So what happened is my dad, you know, I said to him, I said, look, if I'm going to do what you do and go to school so I can sit there 8 hours again all day doing something I don't want to do, I'd rather be poor. I mean, then I could like live in a box and go surfing or like do martial arts or something fun. You know, what can a guy do who doesn't like school? So in any case, what happened is my dad then changed the subject, and I didn't think anything of it. I thought that I had escaped that conversation. And then the next Thursday came around, and he came into my room. Literally, he tossed a suit at me. He goes, put it on, son, we're going to a meeting. And I was like, ugh. I thought it was a church meeting, right? Well, it sort of was, but not exactly. He took me to an Amway meeting in the Salvation Army. So I asked him what I could do without school. He took me to an Amway meeting. So I'm like 13 years old, and I go to this Amway meeting. There's this guy. His name's Ron DeBrow, and Ron DeBrow, he's Jewish, and he's got like that, I can't explain it, there's like this Jewish kind of grin that not all Jewish people do, but some of them do. It's like, like Seinfeld does this face too, right? And like, this guy would make this really sarcastic joke and humor, and nobody thought it was funny. So I went there, and it was like literally like old people sitting around in chairs. You know, I said they're old, now I'm like getting up there, you know. But they're all sitting around, like, listening to this guy tell jokes and stories. And I was like, is this that dumb, stupid thing where my dad is selling soap and vitamins in the house? And anyways, this guy proceeds. The only thing that kept me entertained that meeting, because I was just super ADD, was there's this homeless guy that got invited to the meeting. So there's this homeless guy there, and this guy keeps interrupting the meeting, like interjecting jokes and like things like this, right? And he's like interrupting. And this guy just thinks it's funny, and he's totally relaxed. He's just like totally relaxed and doesn't care that this guy's interrupting the meeting. But it was really funny. It was really funny, this homeless guy interrupting the speaker, right? And I thought this guy was like not making any money. And so what happened is that like I was just like this the whole time, like, please God, get me out of this Amway meeting, right? Maybe one of the only times I prayed as a teenager. So in any case, I'm sitting there and I'm listening to this, and then we get to the magic question, right? We're like 2/3 into this presentation. This guy's dropping these jokes that are just dropping like bombs because people in Alaska, you know, in Alaska, it's like they think it's funny if you drop a piano on someone's head. They don't think sarcasm is funny, right? They think that's funny in England. And so in any case, like I'm sitting there and I'm watching this interaction, and there was only 2 guests in this room. There was me, and I was 13. And there was a homeless guy, and somebody had actually told the homeless guy, I will buy you dinner if you just come to the meeting. So I was just thinking it was funny that the only 2 guests were them. So I think this guy, he was just like, you know, I'm not gonna make any money. Might as well just sit here and tell jokes and stories. So anyway, this homeless guy, this is what happens. He gets the magic part of the presentation. This guy's talking about money, and he was drawing these circles, and I'm like, what's he talking about? And this homeless guy interrupts, and he says, well, how much money are you making? Like, just like that, like, how much money are you making? And I was thinking, this guy's homeless, who cares, right? Like, but it was really funny that he would just interrupt and this other guy didn't care. And he says, well, I don't think you really want to know. And I was like, he's making nothing, isn't he, right? So I like went like this. I was like, all right, what's he going to say to this, right? And he's like, well, it's not really fair because I just got started a couple of years ago. And I was like, oh, here we go. Excuse-itis, right? He's going to make something up. I'm just getting started. I'm just starting out my business, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, well, so it's not really that much. And I'm a full-time realtor. I do this part-time. He's a realtor full-time. And I was like, here we go. I'm sure he's making lots of money from this little home business Amway thing. And so he goes turns around the whiteboard and he writes a 2. And I was like, he's going to write $20 or $200 or $2. And then what he does is he writes a 3. And I was like, okay, here we go. $23. And then he writes a 0. And I was like, okay, here we go. And then he writes 0, 0, 0. And I about fell out of my chair. That's what I did. And I hit my dad's arm like that, right? I was like, because he was a judge. We didn't have like skidoos. We had 7 kids. He worked all his life, really hard working. And really, we would have been in the upper middle class, but because there's 7 kids, 7 kids, just take whatever your income is and divide it by each one of them, and then divide it again by the disaster each of them caused, and we were some disastrous children. So in any case, I'm sitting there, and I look at this guy, and I look at my dad, and I love my dad, right? But I'm thinking, here this guy is, he's sitting in a room selling soap and vitamins to homeless people and teenagers part-time in the night. And my dad's like working this full-time as a judge, like in this really respected job in the community, like, and really loves what he does. But like, he's making like 5 times my dad's income, in 2 years. I was like, I'm going to be rich. If this guy can make this much money selling soap. So anyways, I'm 13 and that's my first exposure to network marketing. It planted this vision inside my brain that there could be a better way, right? Now, network marketing is a thing, and internet marketing is a thing, and everybody's got their own kind of business model, and they're always talking about their little business model. And the reality is that all that business is a value exchange, right? And so if you take a look at how do you sell products in the marketplace? Well, what you do is you take a great product, and then you go to an audience, and then what you do is learn to generate prospects, and then you get the prospects asking you for information, and then you sell them the product in a way that they like to buy. It's actually really easy to do, right? It's really easy to flip on a camera and make videos, and I always happen to do it when there's like weird music playing in the background and cops and like sirens and explosions going off and things like that. It's a constant zoo here in Costa Rica. But here's the thing, right? Is I see this and it just planted this idea in my brain. A week later, or a couple weeks later, it was Halloween and I was out with my friend Matt and we were egging houses and cars. Not probably the best thing to talk about doing, but I was a rebellious teenager and I did. So we were out doing that and I said, Matt, what do you want to do for a living? And he says, what are you talking about? We're 13. And I said, well, I'm just asking, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he said he wants to be a firefighter. I broke into laughter, right? Probably the rudest thing I could ever done. So I'm laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing. And he hits me in the stomach, and I like dropped down like this, like I lost my air because he just punched me in the stomach. And he says, what do you want to do, you idiot? And I said, I'm going to be rich in Amway. And then he about died laughing. So I like got around network marketing when I was little. And then when I was 21 years old, I actually started, right? I started doing network marketing. Now, I failed for like 7 years. But the vision is what kept me in. And the belief that I had in myself kept me in for a long time. And when I say I failed, I mean I had like probably 25 jobs by the time I was 26 years old. And so what happened is it's like, there's this thing, and I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it's like every 7 years in the Jewish, calendar, it's like a year of Jubilee, And it's like, I know so many people in network marketing, they fail for a long time, and then it's like they get to year 7 and they have a breakthrough. And that's what happened to me. So I'm out there, I'm doing home meetings, I'm prospecting, I'm doing all this stuff, and it's not working at all, like at all. If you're in a business, and I was talking to somebody the other day, I have this group I'm teaching to recruit. If you're in a business and in 3 years you make $50, that is not working, right? That is not a growing business. I mean, how long could you do that before you get to 10,000 a month? Something has to change there in what you're doing. But I just keep repetitively doing this stuff. So what happens is 2006, I ran across some things and I had failed for long enough to where I had learned how to succeed a little. I built an offline organization doing hotel meetings. But then in 2000, it fell apart because I got so sick of the three-way calls. And then in 2009, I really figured things out. And I figured it out because I set an intention to figure it out. And I really got clear with a vision. And my vision actually wasn't that expansive. It wasn't helping that many people. It was really kind of a selfish vision when I first started. It was like, I'm going to make $30,000 a month and move to the beach in Costa Rica. Don't ask me what put that in my brain. This was back in 2009. I had just been homeless living in a van. I was literally working for Greenpeace selling things on street corners. And then I was like, I'm gonna make 30 grand a month in 90 days, and I'm sick of failing. And I'm going to move down to Costa Rica and live on the beach. I'm going to do it period. And something changed. There's this quote, and I could never remember the quote, so I won't quote it. But it's like when you make a decision, all this stuff in the universe starts lining up in a row. When you really get clear and when you really make a decision about something and you really have a clear vision about what you're going to do. And this was really not a vision. This was more like a sub-vision that you kind of get to when you're new. I'm going to talk about how to get a vision here in a second. So I get this vision, I get this idea, and it was so clear in my brain. I used to like wake up in the morning thinking about it and go to bed thinking about it. And I'd think about running into the ocean at the beach in Costa Rica, laughing and, drinking out of coconuts, making $1,000 a day. Like I'd never made $30,000 up that. I'd never made that much in a year, let alone in a month. Wasn't that a crazy thing to think? I didn't own a company. I wasn't selling my own info products. I wasn't selling coaching. I had no high ticket products. I didn't have near as financially lucrative an opportunities as Power Network has, but I knew that moment, I knew I was going to do it. So what happens, I start working. My first month, I make like $15. Not much. My second month, I made, I think, $3,500 or something along those lines. It was right around there. Month three, actually at a week, I made more than 21 grand in a week. Like in a week. It's like, wow, how'd that happen? Vision. See, what happens is this, and this is how I think that things work. Number one, I think that I believe, this is my belief, and you could take my belief or you could take a different belief, and beliefs are just that. They're beliefs. Doesn't mean they're true. I believe that God put you here for a reason, right? And that there's something in your heart that's just massive. And whether you want to take hold of that and run with it is really up to you. And when you decide that you are going to live to your full capacity and that you are going to step into a new future, it's like there's a doorway that opens in time. Like if you could imagine yourself reaching your hand out in time and sticking your hands on a golden knob and turning it. And as you turn it, there's a light on the other side. And there's a figure that beckons and says, come with me. As you step through the door, all the things in the universe, they start to align as you walk down a golden brick road towards your new future. And in the distance, perhaps there's a mountain out there. And you see the mountain, and there's all the people that you ever wanted to meet, and there's all the wealth that you ever wanted to have. There's a mansion that you wanted to build. There's the cars that you wanted to drive. But more importantly, you see yourself, perhaps reading, relaxed, and you look at your forehead and the sides of your face, and you notice all the lines of tension have melted away from your newfound peace because you're walking in your purpose. And you see this, and then you follow this character as you start walking down this path. All of a sudden, there's like obstacles in the way. Something pops up. There's like a wall, and it has spikes on it. And the first one, it's kind of easy. You take a look at the wall, and there's spikes, and you say, okay, I'm not going to walk into the spikes. What I'm going to do instead is stop, walk around it, and then continue my way. And the character beckons and says, come. But then suddenly, something gets a little bit odd. You're walking down the path, and you see a giant wall. And it's like this impenetrable wall, and you see it. It's extending on for ages as you go out and you're in your business and maybe prospecting in Walmart again, or you're looking for another ad, or you clicked on an email and get to this video, and it's like, I can't get past this wall. This wall is giant and huge. But then you walk up to the wall and you notice there's a keyhole. And so you wonder, you say, I can't see how this even opens. There's no hinges. How do I open this wall? There's a keyhole in the wall. What happens if I had that key? What happens if I have it? And then all of a sudden, you start to get hungry. You start to get thirsty. You start to look, and you can't find it. And you start to pick up rocks. You go back in the trail. You come back. The wall is still there, and you just see this keyhole. And you look into it, and then all of a sudden, you remember that when you started this journey, you made a commitment to yourself. And you renew inside yourself this commitment and says, no matter what it takes, I will find the key to unlock whatever will happen. When I stick that key in there, I want to unlock this barrier in front of me and walk along the yellow brick road. And so what you do is you drop down and suddenly decide to do something that you've never done. You lift your eyes up. You look to the mentor that's been beckoning you to follow in front of you. And you say, please, can you help me? And he turns around, and you see a familiar hand reaching out. And it's familiar because it looks just like yours. You grab the hand, he lifts you up, and you look into eyes, and they're your eyes looking back. And what he does He puts his hand inside your heart and pulls out a golden key and says, the key that you've been looking for has all the time been inside your heart. Because this is the vision that God gave you. And you take your vision and you stick it inside the wall and then just step right through like nothing's there. And find yourself in front of another door. And you hear a knocking and you say, what's this knocking? Can I open it? And you hear a yes. And you take the hand and you open it. And you step through. And as you do, you see the path clearly. And the people that you need are there. The resources you need are there. The knowledge you need is there. And all of a sudden, everything that was seeming to evade you before is falling now into place along the path to the mountain in front of you. And you simply walk there. That, my friends, is the power of vision. Go down to the bottom of the page, put your email in, tell me what you had happen right now as a major breakthrough, and I will see you in the next episode of the Daily Shortcut. And remember, the key that you have been looking for is actually not out there. It's right inside there.